Thank you, Anthony, and thanks for obviously the fantastic H2O AI World event here in Dallas, and to our friends at AT&T for hosting us. We would love to be back for more healthcare panels like this, and I think our panelists are great. So I'll just say that at the outset. I think one of the things we wanted to start off was with a very, very serious question. So we'll start with that. June, starting with you, what's your favorite movie?
I would say Moneyball, because that started the sports analytics, talking about the importance of analytics, analyzing all these data, driving performance improvements. So I'll pick Moneyball.
Moneyball, okay, awesome. How would you?
I like Das Boot. It's a historical movie, a German movie. So I enjoy, everything historic. So that's the movie I like.
Thank you. Muk?
For me, it's 12 Angry Men, because that, to me, was the first movie that used data in a very compelling sense, albeit not digital.
Nice.
Amit?
The Dark Knight, Bruce Wayne's story of transformation into the Batman, yeah. Overcoming his fears, so, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll plead the Fifth Amendment on this, so we'll leave that aside. I think what's... The Big Lebowski.
Oh, yes.
Nice. That's funny.
I think one of the key things over here is what's special to this group here is we have a mix of clients and users here. June is an old school member of the H2O community, has been an H2O user, as he likes to say, for as long as?
Close to 10 years, I guess. So starting from the open source days, but I've been enjoying working with H2O, big fan, and then also repeat customers. So that here at MJ, we just signed a PO, became a customer, and it'll be a fun journey.
Thank you. Casey, what are you doing with H2O?
Right now we have a few solutions delivered to our supply chain team with H2O model. Of course, I run a robotic process automation program, and H2O has been a really good segue for us to deliver the solution that the supply chain team was looking for. But that's, of course, not the only thing that we do in our ministry. There's a ton of other use cases that we are using H2O for, but supply chain use case was the one that we are currently using.
And if I may, I think what you're doing there is using H2O's Document AI.
Correct.
Connecting that.
Correct. Yeah, we are using H2O's Document AI. So the use case is where, on a daily basis, our supply chain team sends around like 4,000 purchase orders every day. And 80% of them happen through EDI, and so there's a 20% that's still manual. The confirmation comes through the email. There are up to 3 people looking into the opening of the PDF, looking at the data, confirming if the details match with our source, which is ERP system is Workday. So we wanted to automate that process as well. In the beginning, when we met with the customers, they were not really keen on this AI guy trying to do their job, right? So they were wondering, what will we do once this things takes over? But now, the transformation has happened. We've delivered the product. And actually, and coming to the topic of business transformation, how do you know transformation has happened, right? So we delivered the product a while ago. That was the digital part. And a few days ago, our coming off of weekend, our server were overloaded, and so their jobs didn't run. So I started to get emails saying, hey, what's going on? So that's when when people start to complain, when things are not working, you know that the transformation has actually happened. So yeah, that's what we are using H2O AI for right now.
But in true H2O style, Casey, you also have John Miller's cell phone number.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think we're very also happy, thrilled here actually to welcome both Muk and Amit. Part of the reason is because I've been a customer. I probably will be a customer of theirs at some point in the future, given what they do. Tell us about yourself and how Delta Dental is planning to use H2O AI.
Thanks, Prashant. So we are technically part of a company called Roosevelt Innovations, LLC. It's an InsurTech fully owned subsidiary of Delta Dental of Michigan. We just got incepted earlier this year. I had a little group called Knowledge and Data Science. So Roosevelt Innovations, we have built this benefits administration platform, which administers all our claims with a very high auto adjudication rate or a drop to pay rate of 95%, which is unheard of in the industry. It's primarily driven by rule-based expert systems, which we built homegrown here. And data science is the new practice that we have added to this ensemble because there is a large and growing amount of data for us, as well as the knowledge. The automated rules that run the business are also increasing. So we want to apply a solid practice of science across both knowledge and data in symbiotic means. And we are looking to partner very closely with H2O to build low-code, no-code solutions to promote a culture of data science across the organization, thereby, affecting a business transformation over the next few years.
Thank you.
Not just for us, but for the community, because we are also having a growing community of payer practices on top of our platform, and that's the main driver here.
Right. Amit?
And yeah, just want to add, we became an H2O cloud customer, and we also, like H2O's partner Subsol, because we're a regulated industry, we have to protect PHI data, so Subsol gives us high quality synthetic data that we can run on top of H2O Cloud, and that gives us additional protections. And we're primarily our biggest use case is risk management, fraud detection, real-time fraud detection. So we do real-time claims adjudication, as Mook said. We want to add real-time fraud detection. We're already doing fraud detection in business rules, but we want to do risk scoring in real time, and that's a pretty challenging problem.
That's a very important use case, Amit, because one of the things that PayPal found with H2O many years ago was going from a rules-based fraud detection system to a basic AutoML to driverless AI. Their performance in identifying fraudulent and collusion activities improved 100x. So I would say that what PayPal did over 7-8 years, you discovered right out of the gate. Great choice. So I think one of the other things is, I think the key question I have for both of you, all of you talked about transformation and what that means. Starting with you, June, how are you looking at using AI to drive some of those things? And partly to Casey's point, how do you know that the business audience is understanding what we are doing?
Yes. So for me, business transformation means solving business imperatives using digital tools like AI. So that in the case of Amgen, right? So we are one of the largest biotech and pharma companies in the world. So our business imperative is speed. So that means we just develop and deliver these innovative medicines to patients in need as quickly as possible. That is the most important thing for us to do. So in order to do that, typically we consider speed and risk and quality, right? So historically, when you drive for speed, quality tends to suffer. And then if you emphasize quality, speed suffers, right? But with AI, we can actually achieve both. So that, for example, speed, there are so many manual processes we can automate and make the decision intelligent and automated instead of human experts are driving through these rule-based systems, right? So we can drive speed. At the same time, we can actually predict all those quality issues, anything related to different types of risk. We can build risk models to better manage risk and then manage risk more proactively. Instead of something happen and then try to react to correct those issues, right? So AI is at the center of those business transformation. And then in terms of measuring whether we are get there or not, we try to measure the success in terms of business-friendly metrics, in a way they can see, right? So healthcare industry tend to be a little bit lagging in terms of AI adoption compared to technology industries or financial services industry. So that AT&T has done a great job, and Intuit has done a lot of great jobs, right? So these industry in mature space, you can talk about all these performance metrics, F1, AUCs, and accuracies, RMSE. But healthcare space, I have to translate those technical KPIs into more business-friendly metrics so that they can understand, AI is now delivering speed. We have a speed improvement a month. Then they will really see the value and then appreciate our effort.
I think that's a brilliant answer, Jun. I think you hit upon kind of the elephant in the room for those who are not familiar with healthcare as much as some of us are, which is, I would say a couple of years, maybe a bit more, definitely compared to AT&T. But if you look at others, maybe a bit less. But again, AT&T is so far ahead, maybe the gold standard, right? But the question really, Casey, then is, I think it comes down to another thing in addition to what June said. It's abstracting the conversations and the success stories to the different stakeholders in healthcare. I always tell people that when people think of healthcare, they think of clinical, doctors, medicines. That hardly makes up 25% of healthcare data. 75% of healthcare data is supply chain data, financial data, engagement data, customer data. So a lot of healthcare is actually non-clinical. So coming to that, Casey, I think you did some wonderful work at BSMH, Bon Secours Mercy Health. In terms of not just coming up with the insights and the predictions, but connecting it to the operational systems.
Yeah, healthcare is literally everything that we do is life or death, right? So supply chain for us is a big part of what we do for our success story. All the stuff you need for medical, equipments and things like that, your masks and, all that stuff, right? So, people, the users are very critical. They have high standards, right? Because anything they do does affect if somebody lives or dies. So, with the solution that we have provided to them, they are quite happy and they're using, like I said, right? So adoption happens when, when the business transformation is successful is when adoption happens, and adoption happens when people start to see value in it, right? So as soon as it doesn't work, you hear it, and that's how you know you're in the right track. So with the solution we provided for the supply chain team, now the procurement team is after us, with the similar use cases. And like you mentioned, right, a lot of the data that we have, area where we can use automation along with H2O AI is in those areas, finance, supply chain, procurement, very important aspects of what we do on a daily basis.
And I think, Casey, the thing that you mentioned was, you really know you're having an impact when people call you up and say, why is H2O
Correct, yeah.
Document AI not giving us the results we expect? Well, it's because of some other problem, but you know that you have hit the mark, right?
Correct, yes. So that's when you know that you're doing the right things, and now you can, and at that point you don't even have to go in and sell yourself. There are other teams that are doing it for you. The procurement thing, they came to us saying, we want to partner with you, and I think the H2O team is already working with them to do similar things that we've done with the supply chain.
Yeah, and again, I think one of the key things is if you don't get compliments, wait for the complaints to show up, right?
Yes.
One thing that I do want to ask you, Amit, is what are some of the opportunities that you see, especially given a lot of our work, PII, PHI. So I was telling someone the other day, right? I was like, we'll take care of PII. Like, I was like, yeah, but everything else in healthcare is PHI. Mm-hmm. The only stuff which is not PII in healthcare is PHI data. How are you dealing with third-party data, surrogate data, and things like this? And what is your view on those things in order to develop some of the solutions you're doing? Waste, fraud, and abuse is not new to healthcare. Mm-hmm. It's widely assumed that 1 out of every $3 in healthcare is spent on waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yes.
So how are you looking at these other data sets, other industry lessons?
Well, we contract with data providers that have those third-party data sets that we can augment our own data. So we have a large body of data. We have to go through the data governance councils, seek approvals around data protection. And when we procure third-party data, it's the same process. But that's really where the value is. It's actually in the third-party data, specifically around fraud, waste, and abuse. We have been so internally focused that we've missed out on all this third-party data that's incredibly valuable. And with H2O now, we can combine it And these models, with the Wave applications, our customers can see the value. That's what's missing. I think a lot of AI is hand waving, and we try explaining things, but once you show it to them and build a Wave app, that's when things start to click. And then explainability and interpretability that you have in the platform with Chat Values, just exposing them, showing it to our users, and then even embedding it within our application so it's all within the user experience. I think that's what's really unlocking the value for us. And we are rewriting these core systems that we have been using for 20 years, and H2O was a big part of that.
Thank you.
New design. So.
Thank you. I want to come back to you, Mukh. One of the things we touched upon, even in your introduction and in our prep call also, you said, look, we are setting up this new data science practice, right? Well, Mark Austin is sitting right here. Prince is right here too. We'll try to get some tips from them before we leave today at dinner at least. But jokes aside, and obviously you're doing a great job in getting that started. But one of the challenges we hear often in healthcare, especially given what June said, what Casey said, we all discussed now. Education and awareness is sometimes a challenge well before solutions come in. So you're trying to do all these innovations. You're trying to change the business. You're trying to change patient care. I would like each of you to talk about, and you don't get to repeat each of those points.
Okay.
Just kidding. Each of you please talk about what you're doing to identify it. How are you addressing it? What are some tips you have for our audience here who may have similar challenges?
So that's a great question, Prashant. Thanks for asking that. It is a big challenge. Awareness, evangelization, and continuous cultivation of the company culture as well as mindset is very, very important and key to the setting up of a data-driven culture and to derive the best values out of it. Right? We have to set up the right recipes and partner with the right company. In this case, H2O is a great partner, right? But more importantly, how do you get that message across to the senior stakeholders across the company who don't have much knowledge about this, and how it can bring about value in bite-sized clips or nuggets is always the key, right? So to that end, some of the things we do within our data science team to kind of present an analogy, right? We consider ourselves as a gorilla team, right? Number one. Number two, we consider ourselves as a catalyst of change, right? So which means that we don't need to do everything. We just need to collaborate with the right parties and get their skin in the game. So a lot of what we are doing with H2O, for example, around fraud, waste, and abuse, is working very actively with our business counterparts. And what does that mean? That means setting up weekly cadence meetings, and the meetings are action-packed. Every one of them, where they participate, they become our ambassadors rather than us spinning the story. It's a joint effort, right? Second thing is setting up like a site wherein we can show bite-sized wins that somebody can assimilate, because corporate memory is short-lived, attention spans are even shorter. So what sticks in the executive's head when time for decisioning is needed is these bite-sized nuggets, and continuous stream of that to make the presence felt. So these are some of the things that we put into play. And also, as we think about it, we think of ourselves as an offense team. So our playbooks are quite different from the general corporate IT department, which follow more of a defense play, right? Our playbooks are different, sometimes unconventional, but at the same time, the way you work through this is to collaborate continuously and to show value quickly in economic ways.
I mean, there's so many points there. But I don't think that was a fair answer, because I think you spoke for all of them. No, just kidding. June, you talked about consumable information also from the perspective of storytelling in the healthcare business context. What else are you doing, June, especially given your non-healthcare background also, to bring that to the table to this healthcare business audience on awareness and education?
Right. So something that resonates to me very well is that education. So educating key stakeholders, especially senior leadership and leadership, So that Sri sometimes says that chief data officer should get closer to CEO and then become CEO and then influence the company and industry in a way we can make great influence and change, right? There is a strong truth to that statement. I totally agree. So that oftentimes what happens is that I am coming from a different background. I've seen what type of applications can be really successful and impactful. And then when I start talking to senior leadership and leadership, I often get a response, June, are you sure we can really do that? Sometimes I get that response. So that means actually educating these key stakeholders, senior leadership and leadership, in a way they can understand the power of AI so that they can actually have bold steps and then support that we can actually drive down the change. So that's, in my view, that's our most critical part.
Great point. Great point. Casey, in your world, it's particularly interesting. You're dealing with operational systems. You're dealing with robotic process automation. You're dealing with all of this. And you're also the change agent for H2O Document AI, intelligence as part of robotic process automation. Correct. What makes your education and awareness challenges different?
Yeah, so, for most part, right, so IT does things just for IT, right? So you have to have empathy when you go and talk to business users. You have to meet them where they are. Building a prototype is very important, right? So you can go and show it to them, hey, this is why I'm trying to help you. Most of the time, IT goes and gets the requirements, and they're like, okay, we'll see you in 6 months. If you keep doing stuff like that, you will never see the adoption. They would have moved on to something else, or when you deliver something, they're like, this is not what I asked for, and there it goes, right? So, but yeah, meeting them where they are, relating to them, even doing some of the processes that they do to understand, a day in the life of kind of thing, right? So when you do things like that, I think they will see the value, and they will come to you and they will promote you.
Thank you. Thank you. Amit, last word?
Yeah, I think listening closely to all the business stakeholders and their pain points. That's, I think, you have to listen and filter those pain points and kind of have an internal business case. And as soon as you have that, we identify that opportunity, we carve out a prototype, a POC, slap on a wave app, show it to them, and I think then you have the business case, you have a prototype that is going to show success. Usually that's when we get traction, and there are a lot of pain points our business has because we're in a recessionary type environment. They're trying to do more with less, and there's a lot of opportunity for automation and simplifying their day-to-day lives. So I think that recipe works for us.
The only thing I would say is, first, the timer has run out, but I've been ignoring it for the last 5 minutes because this conversation was so much fun. And I wish I could continue ignoring it for a few more minutes, but my next panel is getting impatient, I think. No, they're not. Thank you very much. I please suggest that anybody who's interested in learning more about what folks are doing here, they represent the future of data science in AI in healthcare. So be close to them, follow their work, support them, and thank you very much for your time.